Welcome to today's webcast titled Unlocking the Power of IIoT, Flexco Innovate with AWS. As we move through today's program, we invite you to submit any questions that you might have. The Q&A tab is located on the right side in the engagement dashboard. Type your question into that box and hit submit when you're ready. We'll go through our questions live at the end. We encourage you to engage during our presentation. Any commentary or insights, just drop it in the chat. Additional documentation is also available, and you'll find both of these features in the engagement dashboard. Today's program will be presented by Ricky Singh, VP of IoT Americas, and Bill Prodasky, Senior Manager of Go-to-Market Specialist IoT at AWS, and Keith Staninger, Chief Digital Officer at Flexco. And now I will go ahead and pass it to you, Keith.
All right, thank you. Appreciate everyone joining and the opportunity to talk about our journey on this digital solution that we have launched. So a little bit about Flexco. So we are in the conveyor belt and conveyor solutions area of the world. That covers both the light duty side of conveying, such as food, parcel, packaging, airports, as well as the heavy duty side, which you may know us from as well, mining, aggregate, cement, and we are a global company. Today, we'll be talking about the digital solution we launched really in that heavy duty space. So the rest of my time will be spent talking within that heavy duty application side. So a little bit about Flexco. So we've been in business for 115 years. Our goal is to really think about conveyor productivity for our customers. So really everything but the conveyor belt, as you might make that a little easier to understand. Our goal is really to look at how we solve customer problems, both on the light duty and heavy duty side. Our focus is to not be a vendor, but really think of how we solve problems as a longtime partner. And on the bottom right there, partners in productivity is really our rally point for how we think about helping our customers. We're global, so we have operations around the world, and looking forward to the rest of the discussion here. Before I talk about our Flexco Elevate digital solution, I thought it would be better to hear from one of our experts in the field with a long history in the industry and let him introduce it instead. So we'll show a quick video.
I'm David Foreman. Today I'm here at one of the larger producers in the U.S. installing that Flexco's Elevate platform. I've been in this industry since 1985, so 38 years. Last 13 with Flexco. I oversee our Flexco Elevate program. I've represented Flexco in 26 countries. The Flexco Elevate platform is going to consist of 3 components. We've got an i3 device that's going to be a conduit to send the information to the cloud. It's going to also gather insights that are happening to the cleaner and any events happening to the cleaner. Secondly, we have our mobile app that's we're going to record any service events that we perform on the cleaners. And then lastly, we've got our dashboard that's going to give us condition of the conveyor and of the cleaner. One of the events Flexco's i3 device was able to pick up was a site in the Northeast that had a 9-mile-long conveyor. Obviously, that belt's worth several $1 million. We picked up an abnormal event, and as we went out and investigated that event, we had actually had a rot get lodged between the cleaner tip and the belt itself. It was starting to try to gouge into the conveyor belt. The abnormal event alerted us. We were able to go out there and free the material and not do any further damage to the belt.
All right. I thought it would be more interesting, since sometimes PowerPoints don't really help you understand the problems that it solves or how real some of this is. Hearing it from Dave hopefully really helped you see the application, but I'll go through it a little bit of what Dave covered. So if you think about a conveyor solution, it's very difficult to know what's going on in real time. and it's difficult to sometimes get to these conveyors. They're miles long. It's hard with the visual eye just to see problems that are starting to occur. And the problem that we really heard from our customers is, can you monitor this remotely, give us some early detection or some early indications there's a problem in what was a very hard to solve problem until IoT type technologies came on. So we think of this as a check engine light for the conveyor. If you think about the safety of going on these conveyors, it's not the lowest risk thing to do in some of these applications. Thinking about the conveyor belt health and how expensive these belts are, and to find a problem earlier than the belt ripped and you're down. The different failures that might occur, there's not just one reason that these belts go down. And then also the waste that comes on if a belt isn't efficient, and in the industry they call that carryback. So there's really a lot of different things that may go on that this device is starting to look at. And Dave covered this better than I'm going to do, but you can really think of this if you're a visual person. On the right-hand side, that battery-operated cellular connected device goes on the end of the cleaner pole. It communicates cellular or wireless into the platform. And from there, we're able to take the real-time data that we get. We can send that into the cloud. We're able to do some machine learning and insights that we can get back to the customer in that dashboard. And a little bit about that dashboard. So there's really a couple areas that you can think of if you think about the problems that might go on. So one is there's a cleaner that cleans the belt. The goal of that cleaner is to keep the belt clean so it can operate efficiently and avoid having any problems that might go on. So when that cleaner, think of it like a razor blade, becomes dull, doesn't touch the belt anymore, that's when you get problems. So we can tell a customer if that cleaner's engaged, i.e. touching the belt, how long that blade has been running, the life of that. So think of it as a check engine light, 25% remaining, 50% remaining, and a service record. So think of a really big site with maybe 3 to 4 field experts that are on site, and that's where it becomes really difficult to see if you have a problem. The next is the belt health. So while we're monitoring the conveyor blade, we can actually get a lot of insights around the belt as well from the things that we're monitoring. So in the industry, there are things called chatter, which is detecting vibration, which means that something's not right. Or let's say a high G event. So a high shock event, like something slams into the belt or the cleaner. Those go unnoticed today if you're not monitoring that. And those are really important to understand. And then that device itself actually communicates to the platform with things like battery life and positioning and is it connected. So our team is aware if there's a problem. And then we're able to have the customer see that information. So it's not just about us collecting it. It's really about what problems does it solve. So this would be what a customer or a distributor might look at. And it's, for me, a lesson learned is how do you get this information into the hands of the people who can make those decisions? So they can see all of the information I covered in a really easy way. And if they're a corporate engineering or a multi-plant site, having a map that shows a red, green, yellow that they can look at quickly helps them stay out of the dashboard, but gives them the insights that are important without making this be what they do all day. And then we also really embraced the way to communicate this data into the hands of, let's say, a corporate engineering team. So if the dashboard is one way to look at it, the other is to really get it into the customer's systems. So think of an OSI Pi or an MES system or a reliability system like a Maximo. For us to be able to say that we don't have proprietary data, we use Amazon from an open data architecture, but we can still get that into their system using some very standard ways to do that, like MQTT, so that that data becomes a customer data. So if they're doing digital twin models or emulation and simulation type approaches, that live data is now in their system to model as well. So that's really a big benefit of shifting from a proprietary model or something custom into something that's really off the shelf for customers to use. And that really gets to the last point is there's a lot of different personas or people that might look at this data. So again, for Flexco Elevates application, you might have a mine operator who needs real-time alerts, a reliability engineer who really wants to look at the data from a process standpoint, a maintenance person on site who can look at the records. You might have an IT team or that digital manufacturing team who's looking at it from a digital twin standpoint. And this data is just one of many things that they'd want to look at. Or a service provider. Think of someone who is servicing that mine site, who, based on this data, knows where to roll a truck. And they can save that time of unnecessary walkthroughs when there may not be something going on. Which gets me to my last point, which is, our goal is to really think about the problems that we're solving by monitoring this data. So a couple examples that may be relevant if you're in the mining industry, detecting a belt rip, detecting if a cleaner wasn't installed correctly, a really big issue that goes unnoticed. It avoids the bigger issues that might go on, like damaging some of the mechanical equipment, improper splices. So if that splice is coming undone and it's slamming into the cleaner, that's a high G event we can detect. Having those insights automatically notifying the customer. And then last is looking at maintenance issues where we can be more proactive on helping that team detect issues before they become a problem. So with that, I want to both thank you for letting me walk through these slides. And Ricky, I'm kind of curious from your standpoint, we're looking at this from a monitoring, really getting those machine-based insights and getting those out to the customer. How does that compare with maybe what you're seeing across the industry?
Yeah, Keith, thank you so much for the fantastic presentation. I just want to say how happy this makes me because we've now spent the last 15 or so minutes talking about the real outcomes that we are driving through IoT and not the technology necessarily, right? So when I get to hear your field foreman there talk about a 9-mile long conveyor belt and damage to a potentially $7 million belt by using this, I like to think of it as a Fitbit for conveyors, right? By using this piece of technology, you are able to create a real impact to your customer's operation that ties back to real pain points that you discussed with them before you decided to come up with this solution. And you talk about it in terms of the outcomes that you're driving for the personas or the different type of people involved in the journey of making that conveyor as effective as possible. And not only are you doing this, you are doing this as a 115-year-old company. So kudos to you, Keith, and the entire Flexco team, because this is what digital transformation is about. It is not a buzzword. It is out there delivering real results for real customers. But you have to get started somewhere, right? And I think that's really where our relationship started with the Flexco team, was understanding what it is that they were trying to solve and going on that journey with them from the use cases that they've built incrementally upon as they've embarked on their IoT journey. The first and most critical part that delivers almost immediate value to every equipment maker or the user or operator of your equipment is just giving what I call your equipment a voice. You can find out so much about something. It can just speak to you, talk to you about how it's doing. Is it on? Is it off? Is it working? Is it not? And that is the first part of the maturity curve or journey that many of our customers like Flexco go through. It's just connecting and managing that device or that asset. And we help you do it much faster than you would if you were to, say, build it on your own. I'll come back to that point in just a bit. Know that 75% of costs are removed when you start with a open source off-the-shelf platform like Cumulocity built on world-class infrastructure like AWS. So our value prop there is really a time to market thing that Keith will attest to really help them on their journey as they got Elevate 2 in front of their customers. But that is the foundation. From there, you can start to unlock value in a variety of different parts of the business, starting first and foremost with field services, right? So this is something that Keith and the field team touched on directly. Having insights to this equipment now means they are able to either proactively understand when maintenance is needed, or if they're getting out to a facility to repair something, they understand potentially root cause and have dashboards that help them pinpoint the problem and ensure they have the parts needed for a first-time repair, minimizing downtime for that customer. That we see anywhere from 35 to 50% in reduction of unplanned maintenance visits through predictive maintenance and remote monitoring. So you start to see this sort of step change value get unlocked in different parts of the field service organization. Then we get to performance management of the asset itself. And this is where product teams get really excited about the insights of how their equipment is being used in the field. Not only do we have insights into the performance of that equipment, we can now push over-the-air updates and increase the performance of the equipment itself. Now, yes, this is a little bit harder to do with a conveyor belt where we're measuring data off of it, but there are many pieces of high-value equipment out there that connect to a platform like Cumulocity and are able to increase the useful lifetime of that equipment, sometimes by 200%. Moving further up that maturity curve, we're starting to see customers completely change their business model. I know Keith will touch on this a little bit later as well, but rethinking not just selling conveyors, but selling outcomes, reduced downtimes, and even monitoring the blade health, the cleaners of these conveyor belts, really allows Flexco to move from being a one-time parts and equipment sales company into a services and outcomes company that's really enabled by technology. So Keith, any thoughts on that before I move on?
Yeah, I think one of the, as you were walking through that, it opens up a lot of opportunities for different business models and different ways to offer value for us, for our customers. So shifting from selling the blade, the cleaner, into thinking about that more as a smart cleaner, it really gives the customer a peace of mind that not only are they buying that cleaner, they're buying the insights about their conveyor belt. And that really shifts the value proposition that we have with our customers into more of a thought leader and taking us out of just that product discussion into really more of a solution. And that is a really big difference that we think is a competitive advantage for us now.
And that is exactly what that 50% Keith quantifies, is a 50% improved win rate in competitive situations. Because when you're talking to your customer and your competitors talking to your customer, you're both selling great conveyor belts. The one that has the ability to offer those outcomes, different services, is the one that wins out more than half of the time, right? So that's what we see across our different customer base. But look, this journey can be daunting. Getting to that first step in the maturity curve can be and has been very challenging for a lot of organizations. And it's not a summit that they've climbed just once. That's really where I think our partnership with Flexco from a Cumulocity and AWS perspective starts to come to bear. Fun fact for you, if you did not know this, the word Cumulocity, which is our industrial IoT platform, comes from a combination of cumulus, being cloud native technology, and velocity, because we want to drive velocity with these engagements. So those two words come together to form Cumulocity. And what we offer customers like Flexco and other equipment manufacturers that want to connect their products or their operations is the ability to fast track your time to market with an industrial IoT platform and the services that drive those outcomes. If we think of any smart product use case, in this case, a Fitbit for your conveyor or a connected paint robot, or even your garage door opener on your phone, the thing that you care about is really the application and the visualization layer, right? We saw the dashboards that Flexco provides their field engineers with Elevate, the notifications that go to their customers when something's not quite right. That is the why we do IoT and the thing that we care about. However, for us to get there, there is a lot of complex engineering required that's beneath the water level there of this iceberg. Things from security, which is a table stakes, it's a need to have, not a nice to have. Things like networking communication support, edge computing versus cloud computing, enabling applications, users, tenants. All of this is what usually keeps customers from getting a working and operational solution in the hands of their customers to iterate upon. And 9 times out of 10, it's the same no matter what the use case, whether it's the garage door opener or a complex conveyor belt. The value that we bring with off-the-shelf platforms, market-leading platform like Cumulocity, built on top of the scale of AWS, allows customers like Flexco to get 85% of where they need to be in their IoT platform journey and focus their effort on the remaining 15% of customizations and integrations required for their particular use case. That allows Keith to really focus on what are the insights that we want to drive for our customers, our product managers, and our field engineers, and use a very robust click and drag, low code type environment to get that solution out as quickly as possible with line of sight to scale. Because it's very easy to get your first couple of hundred devices out there, but things get very complex as you start to scale to thousands or hundreds of thousands of devices. Here, it's built in from the start. I'll talk a little bit about how we leverage AWS and then get some thoughts from Bill as well as our partner in this journey. Cumulocity offering things like core device management, data collection and ingestion, having the ability to connect to any type of device southbound. That's really our bread and butter, so that it's ready to go, easy to deploy, rapid to onboard your devices. But why build our own servers or our own networks? This is where the AWS cloud infrastructure and their services, along with the ability to run containers and ramp them, scale them up and down as needed, has been incredibly helpful and part of Cumulocity's DNA of being cloud native. We also have a variety of AWS services that we integrate with and work with should your organization already use them, knowing that with a trusted advisor in Cumulocity and backed by AWS, we will make the joint decisions that are best for your particular use case and your particular environment. I sometimes get the question of, are there repetitive or competitive functionalities within AWS? AWS does have IoT core services on their own, and they are great. If you have an organization that is used to building yourselves, those are great services to start from to compose your own architecture. But as I mentioned on the slide previously, 85% of that is work that is the same across a variety of different use cases. There's no point in reinventing the wheel. I tell my wife this is an anecdote, right? We have a spice rack in our kitchen. And whenever I have the unfortunate duty of cooking dinner for the family, I have 2 options. I can open my cabinet and pick a pre-mixed fajita mix that I can drop into the chicken and blend in and throw on the grill, or I can look at 15 different types of spices there and select each individual one and then try and be a chef. I am horrible at being a chef. I'm barely okay at being a cook, and that chicken turns out consistent every time. That's how you can think about Cumulocity, is that pre-mixed spice with the scale needed to deploy and take that to market. So Bill, any thoughts there? I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ricky. And we're thrilled to partner with Cumulocity and see the tremendous outcomes that customers like Flexco can drive using Cumulocity and AWS. And it is exciting when we hear this and look at how AWS helps partners like Cumulocity drive outcomes. And so there are sort of 6 key things why customers and partners are choosing AWS. We continue to be a cloud leader. We've been in cloud since 2006, so we believe we have a tremendous amount of experience, and we built that over the last 17 years. And with that, there is tremendous operational resiliency. So customers and partners are coming to us because we have tremendous global reach, whether you're in North America, EMEA, or a global company, and we have many global companies. They look at AWS, they see the global reach, our availability and reliability. And as Ricky said, most projects and engagements start with security. So we need to be a security first company because our partners and their customers like Flexco are security first. And that is something we have continued to invest in to drive that need for our partners and customers. In addition to that, we're always looking at what is the long-term value? We are a company, AWS, that is always looking long-term. And when we engage with customers, we want to make sure that we're consistently reducing our prices, but also modeling accurately. So partners like Cumulocity can really drive their business on AWS, knowing that they're going to continue to take advantage of our optimizations across the infrastructure so that they can confidently build and roll out additional capabilities and services. And I think core to AWS has always been our innovation. 90% of everything we build is a result of working backwards from our customers, understanding what our customers and partners need, and then building the services to do that. And the remaining 10% is us thinking about what do we believe our customers and partners need, and we build those services. A lot of people don't know that AWS does build and design their own silicon. And we continue to do that, especially as we focus in on generative AI. And what's also really important is making sure we get these features and services to market quickly because our customers need that. They're looking to us not only to innovate, but do it quickly. And then from a breadth and depth perspective, 200 plus services for across the AWS landscape is again important for our customers and partners. And we really think about, and Ricky touched on this, what is the right tool for the job? We believe, and I strongly believe that Cumulocity and companies like Cumulocity that are driving outcomes and services are a key driver. But we do have customers that are looking to build, and we want to make sure that we can provide what they need. And then finally, it's a very large community, million plus customers, a partner community of well over 100,000 partners, and then marketplace, which helps our customers and partners transact. So we're very proud of what we built there and continue to innovate around that. And so this has been a consistent theme for AWS. Gartner again recognized AWS as the cloud leader for the 12th consecutive year. So we're very proud of that, but we are working hard to continue to position ourselves as a leader, and we will always double down on the work we're doing to help our customers and their customers with outcomes. And then finally, I like to present this slide because there is no replacement for experience. And so with 16 years and millions of customers, as Andy Jassy likes to say, there is no compression algorithm for experience. So we'll continue to work hard to justify to our customers and partners why AWS is the best place to be, within these industries. And it gives me confidence to again hear Keith's story and know that he's in really good hands with Ricky and the Cumulocity team. So back over to you, Keith, I believe, and look forward to the rest of the presentation.
Hey, Keith, I think you maybe unmute, sir.
Thank you, sir. I want to reflect a little bit on where we recognize the value of the partnership with the Cumulocity platform. For me, I think there's three things that resonate. One is the time to market advantage that we gained by starting with an off-the-shelf platform. It really takes the onus from a development side off our hands and moves more toward application development or configuration or integration with connectors. So we do not have to be experts on every piece of the platform. And that kind of gets to my second benefit, which is the ecosystem that we currently leverage out of the Cumulocity platform, with not only the technology pieces of the ecosystem, but the different providers that we are able to work with as well. I'll share one of those. We use this data and use machine learning technology to actually take that data to create our insights. We're doing that, I call it inline in the platform, right inside of the AG platform. And we actually use one of the partners that knows how to do that within that platform. And that's how we got started to kind of speed us up a little bit with that time to market. And then the last is, it's one thing to create a pilot and to kind of get this running with a lot of people staring at it. It's another thing to think about how to scale that globally. And you think of all the different pieces that go into this puzzle. It can be overwhelming, but having a lot of the off-the-shelf commercially available pieces really helped us scale this globally without needing to triple our workforce or add a lot of other experts that we can just take advantage within the platform. So to me, that really hits home on where we see the benefit of when we started and where we're at now.
Such a fantastic summary, Keith. And I think a lot of that's come to light even just in the format of us being on this webinar together, right? Talking about ecosystem, we've got AWS and their scale. I know they're going to be deploying globally with us here as well. Having the ability of Cumulocity participating in the AWS marketplace, having Keith and the Flexco team exposure to other aspects or software vendors that add value in a specific part of that IoT value chain are all examples of why we can come and talk about the outcomes we're delivering for our teams, right? For our customers specifically. So this one for me, as Flexco being our customer, are the reasons why we do IoT. So thanks, Keith, for some great insights there. At this point, I'd like to open it up to the audience for questions or general dialogue.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your insights thus far. And I'd love to support and pull up some questions that we have from the audience, like you mentioned, Ricky. So let's go ahead and jump into it. first question we have here, is it possible to real-time retrain machine learning models that you mentioned when new data comes to the platform?
Yeah, Ricky, I'll go ahead and give kind of our real world perspective here. So we started with a very rules-based approach to just get data into the platform. And it allowed us to do some very rudimentary insights as we were scaling the platform up. That being said, where we are now is we are actually using the data off of our device. We send that into this platform, and we actually do a real-time machine learning model within that. So on the app that you saw on my presentation, if a service tech or a maintenance team goes up and says, this is the blade health, or this is the last time I did this, or they change the material that they're running on that belt, all of those actually go into the model and retrain what we can do from a predictive standpoint. So we actually now do a true machine learning model for those insights.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Keith. Was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think Keith covered it well. That's one example of a machine learning strategy applying in what works best for the Elevate use case. Cumulocity really allows you to manage software packages on those devices themselves, and sometimes those software packages are ML models, right? So you would either aggregate them, learn from a different batch or a different set of models, retrain, and then be able to push those models back down to the edge or the devices themselves. So we offer the flexibility in the approach that Keith and the Flexco team have chosen, or a variety of different use cases or options for use cases that may have different machine learning AI needs.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. All right, going to jump into the next question here. How quickly are customers able to get their equipment connected using Cumulocity IoT?
Yeah, it's a great question, only because I love the answer, and that's we measure this usually in hours or days as opposed to weeks or months, right? Regardless of the type of device you're talking about, we have a variety of different SDKs, connectors, frameworks, including our thinedge.io capability that really allow you to bring this equipment on in hours sometimes, right? So very easy, very simple to connect, and our team's here standing by to assist with any custom integrations if needed. You'll also find a device catalog out there with pre-integrated devices in case you haven't made a selection on a gateway. In the case of Flexco, they were, I'm going to talk about their journey a little bit, Keith, and you can touch on this as well. They needed to get that Fitbit for the conveyor belt designed, right? The device like this didn't exist out there. So they worked with a hardware engineering firm, worked hand in hand with us on the embedded software side of things, and made sure that we were their partner through that journey. But the selection of the integration path from that hardware device back to Cumulocity was actually very simple to implement, no matter which direction Flexco had chosen to go.
Perfect. Anything else to add to that, gentlemen?
Nope.
Okay. Jumping into the next question here. As edge devices are added, how is the relevant data identified? Is data cleansing also a part of this service?
Keith, you want me to start there, or you want to talk about specific?
Yeah, you talk broadly, and I can narrow it down to our.
Okay, perfect. So yes, I mean, when we say edge here, being maybe the endpoints themselves, right? The edge can exist in many places, but we talk about the endpoints. As more devices are added, one differentiation in Cumulocity is our data model. So we don't necessarily prescribe a specific type of data model that you have to force into your data set. The platform listens for the data that the device publishes. From there, you have a very simple analytics builder that can determine which data is relevant and drive that into your process or your dashboards, and even determine what gets put into cold storage, warm storage, and cleanse that data along the way so that you're not, you ingest a lot of data from IoT. We often hear the saying nowadays that data is the new oil. I think it's intended to point to the value that data creates. And I couldn't agree with that more, but I wouldn't call it oil, I would call it sand, because there's so much of it and not all of it is valuable. Oil is processed, then turned into fuel and things we can consume. Same with data, but it can get really messy really quickly. And the platform really allows you to pick and choose what you decide to store, retain, and drive analytics from, and drive the rest to cold storage or your retention mechanism of choice.
Yeah, then the only thing I would add there is we stayed very disciplined on the data we collected and our knowledge that that data could be used to solve a customer problem. So there are other things that we thought we might want to collect in the future, but limiting that really helped us stay focused on the problem at hand. And I think that was a big differentiator to get out of some of the problems that go on when you have too much and now you're trying to sift through it.
Perfect, awesome.
Great question.
Awesome question. Okay, what is the advantage of using Cumulocity versus the advantages of AWS IoT services?
Yeah, I touched on this a little bit earlier in the presentation as well. I think AWS IoT services are great ingredients should you have a really unique requirement to build yourself, right? And there are organizations out there that do have specific requirements that require or would that approach would work better for. For the vast majority of our customers, and slight confirmation bias here, there's a reason they're working with us in the first place. They want to focus on time to market and outcomes for their customers, and that's where Cumulocity brings those ingredients together in a scalable, easy to deploy platform that allows our customers to focus on the applications and outcomes. This is where our partnership with AWS and using their infrastructure, of course, for not just our public SaaS products, but even for dedicated customer deployments in their private cloud. We work as a joint team here on the best approach for our customers, right? We need to work backwards, as Bill talked about earlier, from what the use case requires and think about the best way for us to get there.
Yeah, Ricky, and I would just add that, when we talk to customers and partners, we like to emphasize that, is building really your core business? Do you have the resources? Do you have the continued expertise, not only to build, but to manage on an ongoing basis? And you did touch upon this, which is, why reinvent the wheel if you don't have to? So look at your core business and really think through, do I want to invest in building something that's already built vis-a-vis a company like Cumulocity, or do I really want to focus on what's my core business, what are my core outcomes, and where should I be investing in the business to drive these outcomes? So we often have that conversation, which helps companies realize that working with a company like Cumulocity often makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Bill, thanks so much for that. I had two observations. One is that I think for many organizations, IoT is past the hype and the innovation, right? There's a real, ideally a real pain point or outcome that you can solve by leveraging IoT. So many customers are no longer, deciding if, but how to go about doing IoT. The second observation, Bill, is we see a variety of companies that answered your question of, is your core competency to be a builder, because they make software in different parts of their business. We have another industrial equipment maker that writes software for their HMI interfaces for their machines. So they do have a software muscle. They tried to use that software muscle to build an IoT platform, and they failed twice over in doing so, right? So I would also urge the audience and those out there listening to be honest with what sort of build capability and capacity you have, and have an open dialogue with us. As being part of that ecosystem, we would be happy to make recommendations on what makes sense given the competencies you have inside of your organization. But it takes 2 or 3 times of getting it wrong before they finally come to somebody like Cumulocity and say, hey, we really want to focus on our use case, our customer insights, our outcomes, how we help change our and our customers' business. We don't want to have to deal with this platform stuff. We want to work with a partner that understands our business and is along with us for that journey. So that's what I really feel is as a key learning from our partnership, our joint partnership here with Keith.
Awesome. That's so valuable. Great responses, both of you. We have a lot more questions popping in the chat. This is great. Thank you, guys. Keep them coming. So here we are. Carlos wants to know, is it possible to have control over control equipment, such as PLCs from Cumulocity IoT?
Absolutely, is the short answer. PLCs, different types of devices, and different endpoints. We have a digital twin manager that allows you to, even if there's various components inside of an asset as it's defined, right? In the case of Elevate, it's one device that's transmitting a variety of different data, but in another type of asset, you may have multiple controllers, multiple sources of data, and you can not only manage the device southbound, the controller, you can also aggregate them across to create an asset so you can see multiple inputs from various places. I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. And if any of you need anything, expanded on, please let us know on the chat as well. So bring in for our next question, JM, portability to other cloud providers. How locked is Cumulocity to AWS?
So Bill, in the spirit of transparency, I'm going to answer this to the best of my ability, and that is our cloud, our public cloud instances that are scaled globally, right, in various regions, EMEA, Europe, Asia Pacific, they all operate on AWS. And in order to get our customers the greatest economy of scale, we use our partnership there globally. But if a customer has specific requirements for private cloud, dedicated environments, sometimes even on-premise scenarios that require us to work with edge deployments, we do work with customers to understand what their cloud preference is and recommend AWS where we can.
Great. All right. Next question here. What has the customer response been? Are they embracing the connected products?
Yeah, so from a Flexco Elevate side, the customer response has been positive, and I can share a couple insights why. One is it solves specific problems. When we talk to our customers and we say, we can monitor belt health, we can help you maintain the efficiency of your cleaner, it's a very easy to understand problem that we're solving, and it's a real problem that exists. The second, we've made it a very easy IoT device to install and connect. It literally takes 4 minutes, and it doesn't require a big overhead from our end users to do an integration, to do a lot of reviews. It's battery operated, it can be cellular or wireless. And so it really has kind of a low wall to climb to get it in, and it's easy to understand what it does. And so we're getting really good traction because of that.
And Keith, if I can add, that's not by accident, because we as partners of Flexco's offer to look at their marketing materials as well and how they talk to their customers about Elevate. A mistake that I've seen made before is because it's a great tangible example of digital transformation and innovation, companies sometimes over-index on talking about the innovation itself, right? Here is this great piece of technology. What they miss is talking to their customers about what that technology does for them. So Keith and the Flexco team, their marketing materials, I don't believe use the word IoT in one single place. And that is the point. It's not about the IoT or the Internet of Things. It's about the outcomes that Elevate device enables or unlocks for their customers. Who doesn't want to hear when they're purchasing a $7 million conveyor belt that, hey, we're going to know something's going to go wrong with it before something goes wrong? who's not going to want to know that they can get a field technician that's going to come out and know what's going on with the machine before they've had to call them 3 times over? Those are the outcomes that Keith and the Flexco team and successful customers out there are focused on when they talk to their customers. You know, even on the Cumulocity side, because we're a software platform, we tend to get wrapped up in talking about the platform itself, but this conversation highlights that it's about driving outcomes for Keith and Flexco and their digital transformation journey is what it's really about, right? So focusing on those outcomes, I think, helps drive customer adoption as well.
Perfect. Okay, and as I know we're running out of time, I'll bring up one more question and then we'll try to wrap things up. Any questions that we have not had a chance to get to, please don't worry. We'll reach out to you after the event and make sure that we get a response directly to you. So the last question of the webinar, if you were in my shoes, how would you get started on an IoT business case? What needs to be considered?
So I'll cover maybe some specific lessons learned. So one is I would spend a lot of time being very clear on the problem that you're wanting to solve and validating that that problem matters to the customers that you're selling this to. There are a lot of IoT things out there, and some of them you have to work really hard to know what specific niche it's solving, and really gets confusing, and it's more about the tech. That process to get started will take you longer and should take you longer than you think, because it's a really important part of the process. Before the tech even gets discussed, if you can go to a customer and say, if I were able to do this for you, does that add value? And that is really important. And then you can think about the how. So how does that device fit into their world? How easy would it be to maintain, to troubleshoot, scale? And that will take maybe longer than you think. And not yet have we done anything technical too much in any of those steps. And then the last is really reflect on what your appetite is from an investment standpoint. So we knew that we didn't want to DIY a lot of these technologies. And so we really wanted to challenge ourselves to limit headcount adds and think more about what is the application knowledge and value that we bring to the table, where we can take that data and turn it into insights, and what would it look like to scale and support that globally. I'm sorry, Ricky, but almost nothing of what I said are the important parts before we get to the platform. And then it's really, does the platform help you maintain those costs? Does it help you scale and troubleshoot? But so much of it starts well before you get going.
And I think your answer is perfect. I was not offended at all, because actually it's not about the technology or the platform. It's about the things that Keith, you just mentioned, right? What are the problems we're looking to solve? What is the best way for us to solve those problems? And then from even a platform perspective, that is a key part of our partnership with you, like it was with Flexco, to go through a business case. How are you going to pay for, how are you going to take this to your board and get sign off on an investment like this? There needs to be return tied to it, right? On top of that, we've seen over the years a lot of projects die in POC hell. And I think that happens because outcomes and value were not clearly defined, right? You either solved a pain that nobody had, or you did it in a way that you couldn't afford, right? And that's where you end up in concepts that were proven, but not really value that was proven. And when we partner with our customers, we focus in that journey around proofs of value. And value starts with working with you to define whether it's operational efficiency, reduced downtime, potential new sources of revenue and engagement with your customers through the data that you're collecting, assigning value and an amount to that value, and then working backwards into how you deploy and get started on your journey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your responses. The presentation has been great. Before I pass it to you, Ricky, to close out, I just wanted to point out 2 more things. If you'd like to have a one-on-one conversation, please go ahead and click that Get Demo button at the top of your screen. If you don't see it, just refresh your screen and it'll pop right up, and we'll get in contact with you and put you in touch with the right person to further this conversation. Also, we have our survey that is open that you should see on your screen as well. We'd love your feedback if you have just a few minutes. Let us know what you took away from this webinar, what you want to see more of, and help be involved in driving the content that really we're making for you to enjoy. So with that, Ricky, I'll go ahead and leave it to you to close.
Danny, thanks so much for hosting and doing a great job as usual. For all those that were able to spend some time with us this morning or afternoon, thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. A special shout out to Keith. I know he was traveling and spending time with his customers this week, and he's taken time out to talk to us, which I appreciate. Bill, same to you. Thanks for joining us. If you found this content helpful, please share it with your network and make sure you sign up for additional webinars and thoughts around how technology is helping customers drive business outcomes. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of your day.